The last line of defense. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha, her dark eyes fixed on the swarm of alien vessels emerging from hyperspace. The Meridian ships looked like massive crystalline spiders, their translucent hulls catching starlight in ways that made them appear both beautiful and terrifying. Thousands of them, appearing one after another, until they filled the space between Earth and its moon. Status report. She spoke into her neural link, maintaining her composure despite the overwhelming sight before her. Meridian fleet count at 3,427 and rising. Commander. Lieutenant Rodriguez responded, his voice steady but tense. Their smallest vessel masses approximately 3 times our largest defensive platform. Chen allowed herself a slight smile. The aliens had arrived exactly as predicted, their arrogance leading them straight into humanity's trap. Behind her, in the supposedly primitive lunar facility, the most advanced quantum computers ever created by human hands were spinning up to full power. Open a channel to the Meridian command vessel, she ordered. Let's give them their show. The alien commander appeared on the holoscreen, its crystalline exoskeleton glowing with bioluminescent patterns that their xenologists had identified as indicators of supreme confidence. Its translator spoke in perfect Earth standard, the result of months of signals interception. Humans of Earth, the alien's artificial voice resonated through the command center. I am High Marshal Zixtal of the Meridian Collective. Your species has been judged inadequate for incorporation into galactic society. Your resistance against our scout forces has marked you as potentially dangerous primitives. Surrender now, and we will ensure your species' knowledge is preserved in our archives before your extinction. Chen straightened her uniform, a motion that helped hide her activation of the quantum defense grid. High Marshal Zixtal, I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We appreciate your offer, but I'm afraid we must decline. The aliens' bioluminescence flickered in what their analysts suspected was amusement. Commander, perhaps you fail to grasp your situation. Your planet has no significant orbital defenses. Our scans show only 23 primitive defensive platforms and a handful of armed satellites. The outcome is inevitable. About those scans, Chen replied, allowing herself a broader smile. I'm afraid they're about to become rather unreliable. She nodded to her tactical officer, who initiated the sequence they had practiced countless times. Deep within the lunar facility, the quantum computers reached full power, and the greatest scientific breakthrough in human history activated. The defensive platforms began to shimmer, their apparent forms becoming indistinct. The Meridian sensors, designed to detect normal matter and energy, suddenly found themselves trying to track objects that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. What deception is this? Zixtal demanded, its bioluminescence now pulsing rapidly. No deception, Marshal. Just a demonstration of why you shouldn't judge a species by their apparent level of technology. Chen's voice carried the weight of humanity's response to years of alien aggression. You see, 3 years ago, we discovered something interesting about quantum superposition. Turns out, you can apply it to objects much larger than particles, if you have enough processing power and the right theoretical framework. The defensive platforms were now fully engaged in what Earth's scientists had named quantum flux state. To the Meridian sensors, they appeared to be everywhere and nowhere, their positions impossible to pin down with any certainty. Impossible, Zixtal stated, but there was a new tone in its translated voice. No species has achieved macro-scale quantum manipulation. First time for everything, Chen replied. Lieutenant Rodriguez, please demonstrate for our guests why we only needed 23 platforms. The first platform shifted, its quantum state collapsing precisely where it needed to be, inside the shields of a Meridian cruiser. The resulting explosion marked the beginning of humanity's counterattack. Each platform could effectively be in hundreds of places at once, their weapons firing from positions that defied conventional physics. The Meridian Fleet's sophisticated targeting systems, designed to track normal space vessels, were worse than useless against opponents that treated quantum uncertainty as a tactical advantage. Perhaps, Chen suggested as she watched the Meridian formation break apart in confusion. It's time we discussed different terms for our species' incorporation into galactic society. The quantum platforms danced through space, each one acting as 100 ships, appearing and disappearing with impossible precision. Humanity had spent years preparing for this moment, turning their apparent weakness into their greatest strength. They hadn't built a large fleet because they hadn't needed to, not when they could turn 23 defenders into an army that existed in quantum superposition. The battle that followed would be remembered throughout the galaxy as the day humanity proved that true advancement wasn't about size or numbers, but about understanding the fundamental laws of the universe and having the creativity to turn them into an advantage. The Silent Symphony. High Marshal Zixel's command center erupted in chaos as tactical displays showed impossible readings. The quantum-shifted Earth platforms were wreaking havoc through the Meridian Fleet, their advanced targeting systems rendered useless against an enemy that defied conventional physics. Adapt. Recalibrate. Zixtal's bioluminescence flashed crimson with rage. They are primitives. Their technology cannot be superior to ours. But superiority, as the Meridians were learning, was relative. Their ships, optimized for detecting normal space phenomena, were trying to track weapons platforms that existed in multiple states simultaneously. It was like trying to catch smoke with a net. Deep within Lunar Base Alpha, Dr. Elena Rossi monitored the quantum field projections, her augmented reality display showing the intricate dance of probability waves that kept their platforms in flux. "Commander Chen, we're ready for Phase 2, she reported, her fingers moving through the holographic controls. "Proceed, Doctor." Chen's voice came through clear. "Let's show them what happens when quantum physics meets dark matter manipulation." This was the true breakthrough, the discovery that had changed everything. 3 years ago, when investigating quantum superposition effects, Dr. Rossi's team had stumbled upon something extraordinary. Dark matter could be influenced by quantum states. The platforms began to pulse with a new energy signature. Dark matter, invisible to conventional sensors, but making up the majority of the universe's mass, responded to their quantum fluctuations. The effect rippled through space like silent thunder. "Energy spike." A Meridian sensor operator called out. "The humans are. Their platforms are generating impossible gravitational effects." The dark matter manipulation created zones where space itself became uncertain. Meridian weapons fire passed through these regions only to emerge in random locations, their carefully calculated trajectories meaningless in the face of quantum-shifted space. Commander Chen watched from her command center as the Meridian Fleet's formation deteriorated further. "Dr. Rossi, initiate the resonance pattern." This was the masterstroke, the result of years of research into the relationship between quantum states and dark matter. The platforms began to shift their quantum states in a carefully choreographed sequence, creating a resonance pattern in the dark matter field that surrounded the Meridian Fleet. "Their shields," Rodriguez reported, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. "The dark matter resonance is affecting their shield harmonics." The Meridian ship shields, based on energy field manipulation, began to flicker and fail as dark matter waves disrupted their fundamental operations. Ships that had seemed invincible now found themselves vulnerable to attacks from weapons that could strike from anywhere, at any time. Zixtal watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was systematically dismantled by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. "How?" he demanded of his science officers. "How are they doing this?" On the lunar base, Dr. Rossi allowed herself a small smile. The answer was beautiful in its simplicity. Humanity had looked beyond conventional physics. While other species focused on manipulating normal matter and energy, humans had asked different questions. What if quantum effects could be scaled up? What if dark matter could be controlled? What if uncertainty itself could become a weapon? "Marshal Zixtal," Chen's voice carried across the command channel. I believe it's time for a demonstration of our defensive capabilities. Dr. Rossi, please show them the wall. The quantum platforms synchronized their dark matter resonance fields, creating a barrier of quantum-shifted space that cut the Meridian fleet in half. Ships trying to pass through the barrier found themselves emerging in random locations, their carefully planned formations shattered. This is impossible. Zixtal's translator struggled to convey the mix of fear and awe in his voice. Your species, you were supposed to be centuries away from even basic spaceflight. A common misconception, Chen replied. We simply chose a different path. While you perfected conventional space warfare, we explored the fundamentals of reality itself. Your sensors showed you what you expected to see, a primitive species with minimal defenses. You never thought to look for quantum manipulation on a macro scale or dark matter resonance technologies. The battle continued, but it had already been decided. Humanity's 23 defense platforms, each existing in hundreds of quantum states simultaneously and controlling the very fabric of space through dark matter manipulation, were more than a match for the Meridian fleet's brute force approach. As their ships retreated in disarray, the Meridians learned a harsh lesson. True advancement wasn't about following the expected path of technological development. Sometimes, the greatest leaps forward came from asking entirely different questions. And humanity, it seemed, had always been very good at asking the unexpected questions. Echoes of innovation. Dr. Elena Rossi's augmented reality display lit up with warning signals. The Meridian fleet was attempting something new. Their crystalline ships were realigning into a complex geometric pattern that seemed to pulse with internal energy. Commander Chen, she called out, they're trying to create some kind of resonance field of their own. The quantum signatures are shifting. The remaining Meridian vessels had formed a dodecahedron pattern in space, their crystalline structures vibrating in harmony. High Marshal Zixtal's voice carried a new tone of determination across the command channel. You are not the only ones who understand fundamental forces, humans. The crystalline ships began emitting a coordinated energy pattern that rippled through space, attempting to stabilize the quantum fluctuations around them. It was an impressive display of adaptive tactics, using their ships' natural crystalline properties to generate a field that could potentially force quantum-shifted objects into a single state. But Dr. Rossi was already smiling. Commander, they've just given us exactly what we need. They're trying to use harmonic resonance to stabilize quantum states, but they don't understand the full implications of quantum dark matter interaction. Chen finished, catching on immediately. Can we use their own resonance pattern? Better than that. Rossi's fingers danced through the holographic controls. We can make it part of our quantum field. Lieutenant Rodriguez, prepare for pattern echo. The human defense platforms shifted their quantum states to match the frequency of the Meridian crystalline resonance. Instead of fighting against it, they began incorporating it into their own quantum field manipulations. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The space around the Meridian fleet became a cascade of quantum echoes, each platform's quantum state multiplied and reflected by the alien's own resonance field. What had been meant as a countermeasure instead amplified humanity's advantage exponentially. Impossible. Zixtal's bioluminescence flickered chaotically. Our resonance field should be forcing your platforms into normal space. That would be true, Chen replied calmly, if we were using simple quantum superposition. But when you combine it with dark matter manipulation, well, the universe gets interesting. The human platforms were now creating quantum echoes that existed in both normal space and dark matter fields simultaneously. Each echo carried the full capabilities of the original platform, but existed in a state that even the Meridian's crystalline resonance couldn't fully detect or affect. Dr. Rossi's team had theorized this possibility, that the interaction between quantum states and dark matter could create stable echo states that acted like quantum reflections, each capable of independent action, while remaining connected to the original through dark matter fields. The meridians had just helped prove the theory correct. Pattern echo is fully established, Rodriguez reported, his voice filled with wonder. The platforms are reporting. Commander, we're seeing quantum multiplication factors we never achieved in testing. Their resonance field is actually strengthening our control over local spacetime. The battle space had become a quantum hall of mirrors, each human platform existing in hundreds of echo states. Their weapons and defensive capabilities multiplied beyond anything the Meridians could have anticipated. Their attempt to neutralize humanity's advantage had instead created a whole new level of tactical possibilities. Chen watched as the Meridian formation began to break apart, their ships unable to cope with attacks coming from quantum echoes that their sensors couldn't reliably track. Dr. Rossi, are you recording all this? The theoretical implications alone. Every quantum fluctuation, Commander, Rossi confirmed. The way their crystalline resonance interacts with our dark matter fields, we're going to be studying this data for years. The Meridian ships were now in full retreat, their elegant dodecahedron formation shattered. Some vessels were caught in zones where quantum echoes had created overlapping dark matter fields, causing their crystalline hulls to phase partially out of normal spacetime. High Marshal, Chen's voice carried across the command channel. I believe this would be an excellent time to discuss the terms of your withdrawal. Unless, of course, you'd like to see what happens when we start actively manipulating the quantum echo patterns. Zixtel's response was delayed, his translator struggling to convey the complex mix of emotions in his reply. You were supposed to be simple primitives. How did you master forces that the oldest species in the galaxy are only beginning to understand? Perhaps, Chen suggested, watching another Meridian cruiser phase partially out of normal space as it encountered a particularly dense cluster of quantum echoes. It's because we never assumed we understood everything about the universe. Every answer we found just led to more questions, and we never stopped asking them. The battle had become less a test of military might and more a demonstration of the fundamental difference between human and Meridian approaches to understanding the universe. Where the Meridians had built their technology on what they knew, humans had built theirs on what they questioned. And in the space between Earth and its moon, those questions had just rewritten the rules of warfare. The turning point. High Marshal Zixtel stood in his command center, watching his mighty fleet dissolve into chaos. The quantum echoes created by Earth's defense platforms had transformed the battle space into something that defied conventional military doctrine. But the Marshal had not achieved his rank by accepting defeat easily. Initiate Crystal Resonance Protocol Omega, he commanded, his bioluminescence pulsing with determination. If we cannot defeat their quantum technology, perhaps we can learn from it. The remaining Meridian ships began to vibrate at specific frequencies, their crystalline structures emanating waves of energy that interacted with the quantum echo field in unexpected ways. Within Lunar Base Alpha, Dr. Rossi's displays erupted with new data patterns. Commander Chen, she called out urgently, they're attempting something unprecedented. The crystalline resonance. It's synchronizing with our quantum field harmonics. Chen watched as the space between the fleets began to shimmer with new energy patterns. The Meridians weren't trying to counter their quantum technology anymore. They were trying to replicate it using their crystalline technology as a base. Fascinating, Dr. Rossi muttered, her fingers flying over her holographic controls. They're using their ship's crystalline structure as quantum amplifiers. The theoretical implications. But before she could finish her thought, the battle space transformed. The Meridian ships began to generate their own quantum echoes, imperfect and unstable, but undeniably present. Their crystalline hulls served as natural quantum resonators, creating cascading waves of probability that interacted with humanity's more refined quantum field. Well, Shan remarked dryly, this is unexpected. The space between Earth and its moon had become a quantum wilderness, where reality itself seemed to flutter and shift. Meridian ships existed in multiple states simultaneously, their crude but powerful quantum echoes creating interference patterns with humanity's more sophisticated quantum field manipulations. But something else was happening, something neither side had anticipated. The interaction between the two different approaches to quantum manipulation was creating new phenomena. Where human-generated quantum fields met meridian crystalline resonance, new forms of quantum behavior emerged. Commander Rodriguez reported, his voice filled with awe. The quantum field interactions, they're stabilizing into patterns we've never seen before. It's like the two technologies are learning from each other. Dr. Rossi's displays showed complex mathematical patterns emerging from the chaos. The meridian crystalline technology, it's not just copying our quantum effects, it's creating a hybrid form of quantum manipulation. Their natural crystalline resonance combined with our controlled quantum fields is creating something new, Chen finished. She opened a channel to the Meridian flagship. Hi Marshal Zixtal, are you seeing this? Indeed, Commander Chen. The Marshal's voice carried a new tone, not of warfare, but of scientific curiosity. It seems our attempt to understand your technology has led to unexpected developments. The battle space had become a laboratory where two fundamentally different approaches to quantum physics were combining in ways that neither side had imagined possible. Meridian ships phased in and out of reality using their crystalline resonance, while Earth's platforms maintained their more precise quantum control, and in the space between them, new forms of quantum behavior bloomed like strange flowers. Marshal, Chen said carefully, I propose a temporary ceasefire. What we're witnessing here, it could revolutionize our understanding of quantum physics. Both our technologies have strengths the other lacks. Together, Zixtal finished, his bioluminescence shifting to patterns that indicated deep thought. We might achieve what neither of us could alone. Dr. Rossi's team was already cataloging the new quantum phenomena. The interaction between meridian crystalline technology and human quantum field manipulation was creating stable quantum states that should have been impossible. The very fabric of space-time around the fleets had become a test bed for new physics. It appears, Zixtal observed, that we may have been hasty in our judgment of your species, Commander Chen. We saw your limited fleet and assumed technological inferiority. Instead, you have shown us that there are paths to advancement we had never considered. The battle had become something else entirely, a first contact of a different kind, where two species' different approaches to understanding the universe had collided and combined to create something entirely new. In the space between war and peace, humanity and the Meridians found themselves standing on the brink of a scientific revolution that neither side could have achieved alone. The quantum echoes that filled the battle space were no longer weapons, but windows into new possibilities. Dawn of a new era. 3 months after the failed invasion of Earth, the space around Luna had transformed. Where once hostile fleets had faced each other in battle, now a joint research station hung in orbit, its structure a striking blend of human and Meridian design. Smooth quantum-shifted panels interwoven with crystalline resonators. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, watching as another Meridian science vessel phased into normal space. The ship's crystalline hull glowed with the new hybrid quantum technology that had emerged from their conflict, a testament to how quickly both species had learned to cooperate. Still hard to believe, isn't it? Dr. Elena Rossi joined her at the window, her augmented reality display showing the complex quantum fields that now surrounded Earth's solar system. 3 months ago, they wanted to exterminate us. Now we're revolutionizing physics together. The universe has a sense of irony, Chen replied, smiling. They came to destroy us because they thought we were primitive. They stayed because we showed them a new way of thinking. The research station's main laboratory housed both human quantum computers and Meridian crystalline arrays, working in harmony to explore the new frontier of physics they discovered during the battle. High Marshal Zixtal, now serving as the Meridian's chief scientific liaison, had proven to be as skilled at research as he had been at warfare. Commander Chen, Zixtal's familiar voice came through the station's communication system, his translator now perfectly tuned to human speech patterns. You might want to see this. We've achieved stable quantum crystalline resonance across an entire light-minute of space. In the lab, human and Meridian scientists worked side by side, their different approaches to understanding the universe combining to create breakthroughs that would have been impossible for either species alone. The Meridian's intrinsic understanding of crystalline structures complemented humanity's innovative approach to quantum mechanics perfectly. "Look at this," Dr. Rossi pointed to her display, where complex mathematical models swirled. "The crystalline quantum echo effect we discovered during the battle. We're not just replicating it anymore. We're controlling it, shaping it. The applications are endless. Indeed, the accidental discovery had already led to developments that neither species had imagined possible. The combination of Meridian crystalline technology and human quantum field manipulation had opened doors to new forms of faster-than-light travel, instantaneous communication across vast distances, and energy generation systems that drew power from the quantum fabric of space itself. The Galactic Council is still trying to process all this," Chen noted, remembering the recent diplomatic communications. "They can't quite believe that their attempt to eliminate a primitive species led to the biggest technological leap forward in 10,000 years. The quantum crystalline hybrid technology had done more than advance both species' scientific understanding. It had fundamentally changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Earth and the Meridian Collective were now at the forefront of a new age of exploration and discovery." "You know what the most interesting part is," Dr. Rossi said, manipulating a holographic representation of their latest experiment. "We never would have discovered any of this if they hadn't attacked us. Our quantum defense platforms would never have interacted with their crystalline technology." "Sometimes," Chen replied, "the best discoveries come from the most unlikely circumstances." In the space around them, Earth's defense platforms still maintained their vigilant watch, but they were now accompanied by Meridian ships, both sides' technologies working in concert to protect the solar system. The quantum echoes that had once been weapons now served as the foundation for a new era of peace and scientific advancement. High Marshal Zixtal joined them at the observation deck, his crystalline exoskeleton now modified with quantum resonators that allowed him to phase partially through normal space, a sign of how completely the two species had embraced their shared discovery. "I must confess something, Commander," he said, his bioluminescence patterns indicating amusement. "When I led the fleet to Earth, I thought we were bringing advancement to a primitive world. Instead, you taught us that true advancement comes not from perfecting what we know, but from daring to question everything we think we understand." The stars beyond the window seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the promise of what was to come. Humanity had not just survived its first major interstellar conflict, it had transformed it into an opportunity for growth that benefited both sides. "So," Dr. Rossi asked, looking at her latest calculations, "who's ready to see what happens when we try to quantum shift an entire space station?" Chen smiled, watching as human and Meridian scientists gathered eagerly around the display. In the end, it hadn't been weapons or fleet size that determined humanity's fate among the stars. It had been their willingness to explore, to question, and to see possibilities where others saw only obstacles. The dawn of this new era had begun with an invasion force, but it would continue with something far more powerful: the combined curiosity of two species who had learned that the greatest discoveries often come from the most unexpected confrontations.